And once Dragon does make a soft capture to the International Space Station, there's still a few things that the vehicle needs to do to make sure that it does complete a hard capture. Following the soft capture ring will retract until the sensors indicate that it's time for the hooks to drive in place. And there's 2 sets of hooks. There will be 6 to start, followed by another 6. And once those hooks are in place, then it can attach its umbilical, and that will conclude the hard capture.
That portion of flight, we are under all of our attitude controllers being done by the Roscosmos segment. So we do that with any approaching visiting vehicle, but now that docking has occurred, we're going to hand over control back to the U.S. gyroscopes, which we do in our normal day-to-day attitude control. And so that puts station in a little bit more of a kind of quiescent mode. Won't be able to make any rapid adjustments that could interfere with the driving of those hooks. So as soon as the teams have confirmed that we've handed over attitude control over to the U.S. system, they'll be able to start driving in those 12 hooks to secure Dragon in place. But I did just want to point out really briefly on the trunk there, you see a portion of it that is darker black in color. That's actually the solar arrays that stay on board Dragon and before the trunk is jettisoned, rather. And so previous versions of Dragon had solar arrays that expanded, right?
Yes, they did expand.
And so once that vestibule is repressurized, we may hear some communication back and forth about a cartridge, a LiO canister. This is a lithium hydroxide canister that is used to help scrub CO2 from the Dragon cabin during free flight. So sometimes they'll remove that and seal it before they enter on board the International Space Station. This helps to integrate Dragon's cabin with the rest of the space station atmosphere. So not only will Dragon be able to use station power, station data and communications, but also that air will flow into Dragon and integrate with all of its other life support systems and generate oxygen scrubbing.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop. Docking sequence is complete. So with that, Crew Dragon Endeavour, welcome to
International Space Station, which includes NASA astronauts Jasmine Mogbelli and Laurel O'Hara, as well as ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Andreas Mogensen, and JAXA, or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Satoshi Furukawa, and Roscosmos cosmonauts Konstantin Borisov, Oleg Kononenko, and Nikolai Chub. We are currently in a brief but expected handover period between satellites. The International Space Station relies on communications from the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite System, or TDRS. And right now you can see a live look inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston. The flight control team right now is being led by NASA Flight Director Paul Kanya, and next to him is the Capcom, or Capsule Communicator, Neil Nagata. The Capcom serves as the voice link between the NASA Mission Control team and the crew aboard the International Space Station. The NASA team is responsible for the safety of the crew aboard the space station as well as the station itself. It's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the flight control team operates on 3 shifts per day, or orbits, to provide continuous support for the crew. As we are in integrated operations with the SpaceX Mission Control team based in Hawthorne, California, that team is responsible for monitoring Dragon and its systems. They have a MD, or the mission director, which is responsible for mission success and leads the team, and also a core, or crew operations and resources engineer, which is who you often hear talking to the Dragon crew during their transit to the International Space Station. period. Crew-7 will undock from the International Space Station and splash down off the coast of Florida. Crew-8 will then work to conduct new scientific research to prepare for see a live look inside the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston. The flight control team right now is being led by NASA Flight Director Paul Kanya, and next to him is the Capcom or capsule communicator Neil Nagata. The Capcom serves as the voice link between the NASA Mission Control team and the crew aboard the International Space Station. The NASA team is responsible for the safety of the crew aboard the space station as well as the station itself. It's staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the flight control team operates on 3 shifts per day, or orbits, to provide continuous support for the crew. As we are in integrated operations with the SpaceX Mission Control team based in Hawthorne, California, that team is responsible for monitoring Dragon and its systems. They have a MD, or the mission director, which is responsible for mission success and leads the team, and also a core, or crew operations and resources engineer, which is who you often hear talking to the Dragon crew during their transit to the International Space Station. Space Station for their approximately 6-month journey aboard the space station. One of those experiments, known as H-bond, or human brain organoid models for neurodegenerative disease and drug discovery, studies the mechanisms behind neuroinflammation, which is a common feature of neurodegenerative disorders. Researchers create organoids using patient-derived iPSCs, or induced pluripotent stem cells, from patients who have Parkinson's disease and primary progressive multiple sclerosis. Results from this study could help improve diagnostics, provide insights into the effects of aging, accelerate drug discovery, and identify therapeutic targets for patients. Approximately 28-hour transit to the International Space Station, where they are currently docked. And only an hour ago, the Dragon Endeavour spacecraft carrying Crew-8 docked to the International Space Station. This docking took place at 1:28 a.m. Central, 2:28 a.m. Eastern, as Dragon and the International Space Station were flying over the North Atlantic just east of Newfoundland. Teams continue to work through some of the hatch opening operations. This process can take about 2 hours to complete. Once the hatches are open, there will be a brief welcome ceremony as Crew-8 is officially welcomed aboard by the rest of the Expedition 70 crew. And following the welcoming ceremony, there will also be an ISS safety briefing for the Crew-8 astronauts. And then they will also take time to integrate Dragon into the station environment. To do that, they have to complete a few tasks to prepare Dragon for docked operations, including removing the LiO or lithium hydroxide canister used during free flight.
Station Dragon, Houston on a big loop. After some coordination here, we're going to get the hatch open with the expedited path, and then we're going to go ahead and shoot for a PAO event at around 0900. We're just finalizing some leak checks down here on the ground.
Houston copies. Dragon copies.
And you just heard some conversation between flight controllers here on the ground and the space station and Dragon crews. They are currently targeting a welcoming ceremony to take place at 3 a.m. Central, and the hatches will open a little bit before that, probably approximately at 2:45 a.m. Central. Teams are just continuing to finalize some leak checks before that official hatch opening can take place.
Station Houston on a big loop for JAWS and hatch opening.
With you on two. With you on the big loop.
Hey, JAWS, we're ready for you to pick up in your activity at 9:05 with the Deltas as frac.
Okay, copies. I have a go and step 3.1.
If
Copy, picking up 3.1. SpaceX Dragon on the big loop for students.
Go ahead, Dragon.
Just timing-wise, they're telling us PAO event 09 Zulu, and that is almost exactly the same time that the seats would be done drying with 1 hour. So we will give you the seat fan off command 5 Alpha.6.
Concur. We are already tracking that. I also have a couple items for you. First of which is, can we come on back on board with cameras?
Stand by 1, SpaceX.
Copy, standing by.
SpaceX Dragon, big loop copy. We are in section 6 right now, standing by ISS Crew.
And you heard some continued conversations between the Dragon crew and teams here on the ground as they work through or Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency astronaut Satoshi Furukawa on the far left. In the center is ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut Andreas Mogensen, and also there was NASA astronaut Laurel O'Hara. They were working to set up for the welcoming ceremony that will take place shortly after Crew-8 floats aboard.
Station, this is Houston on Space to Ground 2. Are you ready for the event?